cancers used to be a disease and an illness that people up from 50 and up used to get. But for some reason, now people from less than 50s and the 30s and even in the 20s, 40s actually getting cancer. So now for me, find this really very terrible news. And I wanted to get down to the bottom of it, basically to understand what is causing it, why it's happening to younger people more and more, and what can we do about it, and definitely what to look out for. What are the lifestyle changes that you can make to prevent yourself, to protect yourself against this freaking thing? So now we have a documentary that we're gonna firstly watch, because I'm for sure, I definitely wouldn't wish this on nobody. And it's something that is very difficult for somebody to go through, because especially whether you have it, it feels like a death sentence. Because I can imagine for people who have it, especially if it wasn't caught in the early stages, very sad its existence. But when you do have it and you are younger and you happen to catch it at the early stage, you still have to suffer a lot through going to how you call this, therapy for it, or using certain methods that are basically gonna make you weak. It's gonna change the entire person that's actually going through the therapy for, in the hope of having a remission and the hope of actually removing the cancer cells that actually in the body. So we're gonna take a look at this story.
Diamond, and from the BBC World Service, this is the global story. There is a very strange and disturbing thing happening with cancer. Whilst huge strides are being made in treatment, at the same time, cases amongst younger people are rocketing, up 80% in the last 3 decades.
80%? That's crazy. 80% in the last 10 years.
And often, when the cancer is found, it is aggressive. Today,
and this is one of the problem too. When it comes to younger people having cancers, this is one of the danger to it, and the scariest part of it, that you can get it when you are younger, in your 20s, your 30s, or your 40s. It used to be something that above 50 years old people used to get, but now you can get it at these ages, but you don't even know that you have it. And the medical system is not even structured in a way to get screening for people who are younger, because it is not expected. This is one of the scariest part about it, because it's not expected for younger people to have cancer. So which means you're not gonna get screened for it. We're gonna actually dive deeper into this to find out for you to understand the real danger of it.
Story: what is driving the increase in cancer amongst younger people, and what can be done to stop it?
Yep, I agree with that. What can be done to stop it?
Joining me today is Dr. David Cox, a former neuroscientist,
Mr.
now a freelance
Cox,
science
Cox.
journalist. Hi, David.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
David, I want to hear more from you about why we're seeing this increase in cancer amongst younger people. But first, I've been speaking to one person who is part of this trend. Her name is Natalie Phelps. She has stage 4 colorectal cancer.
Colorectal cancer. So let's address the first elephant in the room. What is colorectal cancer? For people who don't know. All right. Death caused by cancer this year, only from January until now. So this is something that's actually happening real time. And I don't believe the numbers are 100%, because let's say, for example, less developed countries who doesn't have, let's say, the bottom line is a lot of people have died and the cause of death was not revealed. And a lot of it could have been due to cancers. But so far, this is the accurate number that we have, that people who are registered today, and even right now, you just see the number went up to 2, 3. People are just, going to meet our maker. And the worst part about it is that it's shortened their lifespan. That's the worst part about it. But we're gonna go into colorectal cancer. And if I find it very quickly here, okay, because this is what he spoke about, colorectal cancer. What, for people who don't know, the medical term is cancer of the colon cancer. And where is your colon? So now, colon, large intestine. So it's cancer. What is colon cancer? Colon cancer form inside the large intestine. The large intestine here, which is roughly 5.5 feet long. So this is colorectal cancer. It can be because of a lot of things, but we're gonna discuss the causes and we're gonna actually, dive deeper into it. But I just want to make this part clear.
She's in her early 40s, but she was
Early
diagnosed
40s.
when she was 38 years old.
38 years old, that's when she was diagnosed. And possibly could have been that she had it way before 38, but that's when she actually got the screening for it.
Just after she gave birth to her second child.
It still is upsetting to me to think that I was nursing a baby. I kept thinking I had just given birth and was
This is scary though. She was, anyway, let me just go further.
nursing a baby, and I was
It's like she's nursing a baby. She just gave birth, but this terrible cancer thing had to, really ruin that moment for her. And I got one question that was going in my mind as she was actually, begin telling her story, is that, is the cancer cell passed down to her baby? Because what we do know is that a lot of the time, if you have history or your family history of cancer or any type of illnesses, it automatically puts you as the next runner up or the next one to actually develop it. Basically, it's carried on through your lineage. So it's good to understand your history or people, or basically your lineage, because that can help to provide information that could be life-threatening.
going to have to stop all of that and undergo cancer treatment and potentially not even be able to watch this new baby I had just birthed grow up. I mean, it was beyond devastating, and it still is. It's still hard to think about. My daughter actually just turned 5.
Congratulations.
So yeah, thank you. But yeah, I started the year of 2020 pregnant. Then I gave birth and went into nursing. And then in the fall, I started aggressive chemotherapy and ended the year in menopause.
Dang, menopause at early 40s.
David, tell us about.
We're gonna also discuss some of the reason why some of cancers tend to affect women, and that's actually connected to giving, or basically being, childbearing. One of the, and especially nowadays, modern time, as they say, is that what's happening is that women are pushing babies later down their lives if they actually do choose to have babies or have children. So that's one of the things we can actually, look into this and find out what are the causes or the negative effects of having babies later in life. I mean, we do know some of it can be that, your baby is born with some certain illnesses or weaker immune system, or a lot of basically could be disability, but there are other cancer causing issues that women who haven't had babies yet and as early as 28 years old can have such cancer. So
how scientists and cancer specialists first started to notice this rise in the number of young people like Natalie being diagnosed with cancer. When was the trend first noticed?
Well, it's very interesting, actually, because it really has only been in the last 5 years. So it basically actually has been, it's been the rise of electronic health records, you know, the increasing digitalization of health, because without that, we probably wouldn't have spotted this. But basically, we have all of this data, which has been collected from hospitals and health systems across the world, kind of beginning in the early 90s. And it's really been over the past kind of 30 years, probably starting in the late 80s, early 90s, that this trend has kind of begun. And it's in the last 5 years, we've had a few major studies which have really suddenly, people have sat up and gone like, oh my goodness, you know, we thought we were making huge progress against cancer, and we are overall. But in the under 50s, you know, I think there was a study a couple of years ago which showed something like a 79% increase in the rates of all cancers in the under 50s in the last 30 years.
Okay. Before we move further, I'd like to make this announcement because a lot of the time, he just mentioned it, that a lot of research has been done, a lot of discoveries, and most importantly, a lot of development in the healthcare industry has been, you know, set forth. Basically, we are getting better technology and we are getting smarter, we are getting quicker. But would it make sense whether an illness, for example, we're talking about cancer, whether it's something that older people have, wouldn't it make sense that we have some way that we can even diagnose, maybe starting from teenage, every 5 years or every 10 years, you know, general diagnose for these form of illnesses? Because one of the key ways that one of the key reasons why a lot of people tend to pass away from cancer is because of the severity of it. How strong is it? And at the same time, how early you catch it. So because the earlier you can catch it, or basically you can diagnose it, you can identify, okay, you have the person have cancer in such and such location of their body, or this type of cancer, then, you know, they can treat it earlier. But waiting for a little period of time, that, you know, that's like, you know, waiting for too long. Basically, it's not so developed. Development would mean, for me, technology or tool or method of actually testing people earlier or throughout their cycle, throughout every decade, every 5 years perhaps of their lives, you know. Because I mean, if we're gonna say we are modern, then that's what modern do, right? I mean, we expect, because if you're gonna say modernity, we expect a different level or a higher level of result, or a higher level of screening.
Let's talk about the particular kinds of cancer that are being highlighted. Natalie, of course, was an example of one of the big cancers that is a problem amongst younger people, colorectal cancer, but there are others as well.
Yeah, well, colorectal cancer is the one which really has been like sort of highlighted a lot, and I think a lot of that is because of the possible connections to things like ultra-processed foods and kind of changing diets. Which,
remember now, colorectal cancer is cancer of, it takes place in the large intestine, so that has to do a lot with not just your microbiome, which we're gonna discuss, and microbiome of the stomach, but also, most importantly, the food that you eat.
Are maybe more clearer with like colorectal cancer than other cancers, but we have seen this really with, I think it's around 17 different cancers. Some studies have found that have been increasing in the under 50s. So these are things like breast cancer, pancreatic cancer. I think actually, funnily enough, the biggest rises have been seen in things like prostate cancer, cancers of the throat. But it's more than just kind of colorectal cancer.
And is
true, it is more than that. So I have this article to actually prove it. And let me see, where is it from? It's basically this year. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. All right, the latest research on why so many young adults are getting cancer. This young lady right here, Charisma McDuffie, diagnosed with breast cancer at age 28. 28 years old. Yeah. So now, we were talking about discussing the common type of cancers that people actually tend to get. Maybe I can read this this part here. Why are the growing number of younger people under 50 being diagnosed with over a dozen forms of cancer around the world? This trend is especially worrying in women. I don't like to say that, but I like to look at it balancedly, because there are certain illnesses, certain diseases, certain type of cancers that affect women. Also, there are certain type of cancers that affect men. Neither one of them is most important. It is the way that it is. Point. Oh, period. And okay, this trend is especially worrying. And okay, I read that part already, which I found totally irrelevant, because at the end of the day, if somebody is ill, if somebody have cancer, it doesn't matter your gender. You just need to be treated. It can matter, because in a way there could be a different approach to it, but yeah, still it is still cancer is cancer. But which is fun, and women up on the which is fun that cancer incident rate in women under 50 are now 82% higher than their male counterpart. Sorry for you ladies, you need to get your ish together. Up from 51% in 2002. Did nationwide concern? Okay, that's not important for us, but what the type of cancers becoming more and more common in young people. These are the type of cancers we're actually gonna talk about. Increasing diagnosis of serious cancer include, we already covered colorectal cancer and breast cancer, prostate cancer that men suffer from, uterine cancer that has to do with the female reproductive system. But I can show you guys. Let's click the link. Okay. It says here, uterine cancer is the most common cancer of the female reproductive system, which is more, okay, the number is not relevant because we're looking at worldwide perspective, but as you can see in America, this is how much it is. It tends to develop after menopause. This is the key here. After menopause, when a woman is between the ages of 50 and 60. But as we can see, that this is something that is not common. It's not supposed to be happening. And okay, the uterus is a hollow. We know what if you don't know what the uterus is, maybe I can show you guys if there's a picture here. There's none. Okay, but it's basically exactly the female reproductive system. Uterus, pelvis, all of these are basically the women reproductive system. So now we covered that part. You understand uterine, what it is, uterine cancer, stomach cancer or gastric cancer. Let's click on that link real quick. I'm gonna move further with the documentary soon, but I first want to identify the type of cancers that are actually, becoming more and more somewhat popular, but more deadly, I would say. Okay, surgeon of stomach cancer expert. Okay, this is, what is stomach cancer? That's what it is. Yeah. Stomach cancer, we already covered that. Okay, pancreatic cancer, or cancer of the pancreas. Let's see if they have a picture here. This is the pancreas right here. And where is the pancreas and what does it mean? The pancreas is a small gland. I'm reading here. Oh no, that's not what I want. Okay. Okay. The pancreas is a small gland. It is located, it's located in your abdominal belly between your stomach and intestine. The main job of the pancreas is to make enzyme, a kind of protein that helps you digest food. These enzymes are made, okay, all right. I don't think that's really much necessary for you guys, but what is most important is to know that, okay, this is what the pancreas is. It makes digestive juice, and this is the liver right here. So stomach, pancreatic duct. All right, so moving forward. Okay, and the pancreas and more. We're gonna discuss more later, but okay, we're gonna discuss this also later, but I wanna get back to the document.
This being found in young people in a sort of different way from the ones the cancers that are found in older people?
These tumours often seem to be more aggressive. So it seems to be a very different type of cancer. The actual innate biology of the cancer is quite different, which is one of the big reasons why it's so concerning.
Wow. So basically what he's saying is that the type of cancer that younger people are having is even stronger. So I do understand he said that different, different studies are being done, different development are being made. But you got to make different development. You got to create different studies, because if the cancers are getting stronger, then that means you have to keep up. It's like a mountain, it's a catch-up game you have to play. And you can assume, what's really causing it, because I'm going to touch on that later.
Is there a possibility that we're seeing more aggressive cancers in younger people because there's much less testing for cancer amongst younger people, and therefore these cancers are being caught later and therefore they're aggressive? Or is the belief that it's a kind of different kind of cancer?
It's actually both. It's both, to be honest. I mean, right. I think it's both a combination of, obviously, like, doctors are not expecting to see patients with prostate or breast cancer in their 30s. These are diseases really which typically are seen in people in their 60s, 70s, and older. So the warning signs are being missed. So people are presenting like a lot later, at a later stage, when the cancer is more advanced and has spread to more organs. But also, this is the concerning thing. There have been some studies where scientists have actually taken samples of these tumors, looked at them under the microscope, and actually seen different patterns in the DNA, which indicate that the cancer is progressing faster.
And is the rise in a particular country?
So this is scary. Not only that younger people are getting cancers, the cancers are stronger, which means they progress. It's not progression. They contaminate the body. The progress is more of a positive word. They contaminate their body at a faster pace.
Country or set of countries, or are you seeing it all around the world?
I mean, it actually does seem to be more in higher income countries.
Yep. Higher income countries. Higher income countries. Okay. So on that note, higher income countries, I had something here, maybe I missed it. And let me see. I think, yeah, it's something that's happening on higher income countries. So what it means to say is this: higher income countries, the West, countries who call themselves the first world countries. These are the countries people getting the most cancers. I mean, that can be understood, because a lot of things, as much as we might think that being in a higher first world country or higher income countries tend to be more safer, but yeah, when it comes to cancer, it is very much one of the top things that unalive people.
There was one study which was presented at that Cancer Congress in Geneva, and they saw it in 24 different countries around the world. But predominantly it's countries like the US, the UK, Japan, countries like that, New Zealand, Australia, more than like the lower middle income countries. And I think that relates to a lot of the risk factors for these cancers.
Well, it takes me on to the next question.
Yeah, and these are the countries that have the most greed, or the countries that have the most jealousy, envy, because on an emotional level, or let's say it is also said that cancer on an emotional level, it is connected to greed. The more greedy a country, or basically a person tend to be, the greed tend to eat the person from the inside. This is basically, for me at this point, it is a theory that I have, but it doesn't have to be true. But really think about it, though. Really think about it.
David, do we know why there is a rise in young people getting cancer?
The funny thing is, it's actually a little bit counterintuitive, because what we thought of as the traditional risk factors for cancer, things like smoking, alcohol, we've actually seen a lot of progress in that. Rates of smoking and alcohol consumption have been declining with the generations. So it seems to be perhaps newer carcinogens, things we haven't, particularly traditionally thought of.
Okay. Okay. So if people are not getting it from smoking, from drink, from alcohol, what are the things that are open? What is left? Because it has to come from somewhere. A lot of the time it can be, for sure, it can be because of your family history, but also from what you put into your body or what you come into contact with. It could be from the food that we eating, the water, microplastic. I'm gonna discuss all of this a bit later, but
I note the word perhaps there, and to me it suggests, an admirable degree of qualification, but there's also a degree of doubt as to whether or not we've pinpointed this yet.
It's not going to be one or two things. It really is going to be, a dozen different things which are driving this. And we need a lot more. At the moment, a lot of it is just theories, kind of speculation. We have some ideas, but scientists really haven't pinpointed yet that it is these three things which are driving the rising rates of cancer. We need a lot more information. It's going to take lots of a while until we can really pinpoint this. But we have some ideas.
Let's discuss what they are.
The most obvious one is obesity. Obviously, we've seen these massive rising rates of obesity since the 1970s.
Obesity. All right. One of the cases. One of the reasons. Okay. Is obesity becoming more young people to get is obesity causing more young people to get cancer? This is what he mentioned here. Because let's just read the article because before I start to give my thoughts. An obvious focus on rising cancer causing rate is vicious cycle of obesity, high processed food, and sedentary lifestyle, basically not moving at all, or just not moving enough, which are an epidemic worldwide. I would say worldwide, in America and growing in many countries. I would say worldwide. We know obesity causes inflammation. Inflammation, let me see if it's I think inflammation, I covered it here. But inflammation, chronic inflammation. What is it? The body responds to injuries and invaders. Invaders meaning it can be viruses, bacteria, things. Let's say things that we get in contact with when it comes. You shake somebody's hand, you didn't wash your hands, and you transfer bacteria to each other, and responds to injuries. Okay, it could be, you got a cut, and can be caused by low physical activity, obesity, chronic stress, prolonged infection, chronic exposure to toxins. And again, because what he was saying is that when it comes to the obesity rate, it's no, not that part. Because I get it. What he was saying is that there's no one reason, or they cannot pinpoint yet what is the number one cause of it. It's a package. It's basically because of a lot of different things. But still, it is hard for them to say that still, because if you don't know if it's one thing, if it's one cause or one source that's causing people to have this terrible disease, then it is hard for you to say, on the other hand, it's many causes. I mean, these are just educated guesses that they are making, because still, truly, they don't know for sure what are the causes. And
we know that obesity is linked with, I think it's about 18 different cancers. There's quite a clear...
Okay. Obesity is linked to 18 different cancers. All right. We were here. We know obesity causes inflammation, and we covered that, which can lead to cancer. Explain. We believe that plays a role and need to be addressed, but it doesn't fully explain the growing rate among young women with breast cancer. This article is hard to read. nor does it explain the increase in cases seen by MSKS, Center for Youth Onset Colorectal and Gastrointestinal Cancer, which is okay. Okay. All right. So obesity. Obesity comes with a lot of issues. This is the reason why it is important that you keep your body weight, healthy. And especially at this day of time, it's hard to talk about obesity as well, because a lot of people, their feelings are so sensitive. It's like they want you to lie about what you're seeing. They want you to lie in their faces. They want you to cushion or basically protect their own feeling. Yeah, it's a weird thing, basically, because not that, I mean, for sure, there's a proper way of actually speaking to somebody. I mean, you shouldn't try to make the person feel too bad or basically bully them. And if they are obese, you shouldn't do that. You should try to find a way as best as you can to speak to them about it. But still, that wouldn't be enough either ways, because let me tell you this, there's no way to win in this conversation, and there's no way to actually have the conversation pretty much so in a way that people not gonna find it that, oh, you shaming me, or you are basically trying to label it, trying to protect themselves from people explain the obvious. So basically, I mean, for people who just who want to live their lives in oblivious, so basically they don't want to face the truth, that is their choices. But probably one day they're gonna have to be forced to face the truth. So let's move further. I mean it's very simple. You know yourself. People who are obese, people who are suffering with issues, you know yourself that you are that you should make changes, because I mean, your knees when it hurts, when your body aches because you're carrying excess weight around. And this is not just I'm just speaking objectively. I mean, people will still take offense on that, whatever. So when it really comes to these things, because people who are talking about it, a lot of the time they can see it as, yeah, it's the wrong thing to say. You cannot talk about it because you're not suffering from it, or you don't understand and all of that. But still, you can say these things if you are trying to do something about it to resolve it. But if you are doing nothing about it and saying that people cannot talk about your condition, then it's not the right way to go about it. It's not the right way. People should be able to speak their mind. If you find offense in it, probably if the person wanna go further and try to explain it. But a lot of the time, when it comes to people who are obese, not all, of course not. I mean, some people who are obese, very tiny bit. Yeah, because I believe the people who are overweight, who are obese, you guys have willpower. Just like you put yourself, you watch yourself gaining the weight, you can watch yourself losing the weight as well. So you are responsible for it. You are responsible for what you put into your mouth, right? I mean, it's not like I'm feeding you. It's not like other people are just taking the food and put it in your mouth. And it's not like, you being, it's not like it's a life and death situation when it comes to you gotta eat. I mean, I do understand there are some people who have some very tiny amount of people who actually have some health condition. It could be medication they are taking that's causing them to basically put on the weight like that. But still, sometimes that can still be an excuse. Sometimes a lot of time people give themselves excuses to create comfort. You have to be honest with yourself, because cancer is gonna be honest with you. I don't wish that on nobody. It's not a laughing matter either ways, but I just want to speak directly to people. And that's for me, I gotta be realistic.
A link there between obesity and inflammation and risk of DNA damage. But when you speak to oncologists, they often tell you that the patients they're seeing are, they're not obese. They're young, they're healthy, they're fit. These are people who are often doing everything right,
Yep.
but they've been struck down with one of these cancers.
And that was the case with Natalie as well.
I had always put health as a priority.
Yeah.
I exercised all the time, and we were the kind of people, my husband and I grow our own kale and got engaged backpacking. So
Right.
I don't think about my lifestyle I could have changed.
Yeah. Her husband, I think, joked she was the...
But what is it that you're not telling us? Is your family, do you have a family history of it, or, because what's really actually happened? And when she say she live a healthy lifestyle, that can be subjective by different people, because a lot of the time there are so much health content out there, and depending on the person that you're actually following, it could be And sometimes we have to be honest. Sometimes it can be just it can be bad luck. Things can happen in life that we don't have any explanation for. It's just basically, misfortune. But
fittest cancer patient he'd ever known. So obesity may be part of it, but then there are other issues, particularly, I suppose, what you might call about modern life.
It's different things to what we've previously thought of. And one idea, for example, is artificial light. Could artificial light exposure be a new carcinogen which we haven't really contemplated in the past? Because if you think about it, compared to 50 years ago, 100 years ago, our bodies are getting exposed to so much more artificial light than they ever were. We're watching tablets in bed.
It's not just artificial light. Let's put it globally. Modern technology. Let's put it like it's not just the lights, because the technology is something that definitely affect us as well, because they say even your mobile phone, there's radiation coming from it. And that's why a lot of the time you shouldn't put your phone close to your ear. I don't know how you're supposed to use it. I do know. What I do, I barely just have it on speaker, basically. Don't make it a habit to put your phone next to your ear so you can talk, especially if you have one of these quad earphones or earbuds, something like that. Basically, that you don't have to put your phone too close to your ears. You can just use it like that. The main point of it is try to keep technology as away from my body as possible if you can. We don't know if that's gonna make a difference, but it's better than doing nothing. It's better just thinking, okay, well, it's whatever, we don't know that yet, and all of that. Is the worst thing is to be a person that that says, I wish I knew. So it's better to take precaution. It's not that difficult, right? It's not that hard to try to limit or keep a distance between you and your technology. A lot of the time, some people tend to have their mobile phone close to their private area or on their stomach and all of that. Think about it. There's internet, there's data, all of this. All signals are actually passing through right now, or just happening into our body, just passing through into our body. Signals or light rays that we cannot even see. So, all of these are not. Do scientists have studies of actually, how technology is actually really affecting our health? Because new technologies are coming out every year, or could be every month. But is there a study that's actually keeping up, just keeping up with the new development, the new technologies that are actually being birthed?
We're bombarded with light pretty much like so at all hours of the day. If you live in a major city, you're going to have artificial lighting outside, and all of this is
living in a major city. It's like there's no night, really, because night would mean some darkness. Even though it's dark, as you can see, it does look pretty, but excuse me, there's no light, because whenever you step outside, there's gonna be some form of light. There's no night.
Disrupting our sleep cycle. And this is quite interesting because we do know that the sleep hormone melatonin, which regulates our daily sleep-wake cycle, that has a really strong anti-cancer protective effect. So perhaps we're messing with our melatonin levels, and in some people that is driving this greater cancer risk. So that's one idea.
And sleep is another one in and of itself, not just as a result of too much light, but because of the lifestyles that a fair number of people now have. They get a lot less sleep, or they get a lot more interrupted sleep.
Exactly. It's maybe less sleep and also poorer quality sleep. And a lot of that is perhaps because we're on our smartphones until 1 a.m. or, we're not giving our body like sort of the right breaks before we start to drop off to sleep. So that's one possible idea, but it's just one of many theories. Another very interesting one, which often floats beneath the radar, is antibiotic exposure. So, there's a lot of talk at the moment about ultra-processed foods. But the interesting thing is, if you look at antibiotic rates, they've really gone up a lot in the last few decades. And the impact of that is it's wiping out the bacteria in our gut microbiomes.
Yes.
And then given the fact that we're eating this West.
All right. So now he's speaking about bacteria and microbiome. So I have this here because what we do know already is that the food, when it comes to poultry or red meat or food preservative, by the way, these can disrupt our bacteria. Although these are things or substances that are used for a good cause to preserve our food, or to let's say when they give the animals their shot to help them heal from illnesses, or just to make them immunely strong. But these things, these substances, they are not removed from the food before they are packaged. They are packaged with the food. So when it comes to the gut microbiome, it changes when this delicate network of bacteria is thrown off balance, possibly by processed food, microplastic, and other substances. It could be easily formed. It can be easier for tumors to grow. Tumor, skin, no, not skin, but cancer tumors. But now, processed food, not only that, but also, like I said, the meat, there are things in it that throw off our microbiome. Processed food, microplastic, that's very something we cannot really stay away from, because when it comes to microplastic, it is said that microplastic is found almost everywhere now. Everywhere, even in the if it's found everywhere, then definitely it's gonna be found in the womb and newborn babies, and everywhere, and our drinking, our water system, basically everywhere, and us, microplastic. And what can we really do about that? So moving on.
And diet with high amounts of saturated fat, all the different additives and ultra-processed foods. It's perhaps then repopulating our guts.
Yep. And which global area do you know that produce and consume more processed food? The higher income countries. The higher income countries, because if you're in a so-called third world country, or basically a country that has been that is not so, how should I say this, high income. I think I'd rather that, just like you said, high income countries. When you look at the lower income countries, they tend to have more natural food. They tend to grow their own food, and they tend to eat more of nature. But when we are in high income countries, we use ourselves, we are more busy, and we make ourselves more busy, and we tend to eat more at restaurant, outdoor, fast food, packaged food, and junk food, and all of these above. Because again, now the moment that I step outside of my house, I can find a place where I can eat some fast food, and that can be the same case for you. So fast food stores, restaurants are basically laid out everywhere. So which means the temptation is very high. And at the same time, not only the temptation by just seeing the restaurants and the beautiful marketing, the beautiful food that they put in their window, but when it comes to we are just outside going about our daily lives, what tends to happen also is that we are constantly being bombarded in our faces. We are getting advertisement from different foods, and a lot of the time these advertisement, a lot of the time they put us at a disadvantage, because now there's something that is called, I can't remember the name for sure, but one day I'll do a video about it. But it's basically how scientists are studying ways to actually use our psychology to manipulate us to create desires for new food, or basically for unhealthy food. A lot of the time you can check yourself, you can notice a type of food that you feel like eating, and possibly is because you saw a billboard or some advertisement at a bus stop or along the street, that you saw it and it registered in your mind and it create these desires. So this is very, tricky stuff that, when it comes to it, that we are at a disadvantage if we don't, recognize if it's happened. And they are trying to make it more so subtle that you don't even recognize it's happening, that you just have this thirst, that you have this desire for some product or food product that you don't even know where it come from. This is, they were talking about this when it comes to McDonald's. You know how kids are so attached to McDonald's, and there are a lot of different activities they do to make it that they are targeting the kids. So which means that, as kids gonna become adults in the future, or kids are the future. So which means they're gonna have a lifelong customer. And these are some of the food, or not food, these are some of the junk that are actually, causing these issues. But it's gonna be hard for them to actually say it. It's gonna be hard for him to actually say it, because a lot of people are afraid of these things, or basically they are an agent. They are not an agent for change.
With more harmful bacteria such as E. coli, which then produce toxins, which then predispose us to colorectal and other cancers. So that's another theory which has really taken traction. I've spoken to quite a few oncologists who've mentioned that one.
One of the alarming figures within the alarming figure about young people and cancer seemed to be that for women in particular, there seems to be a higher emerging risk. And I spoke with a woman called Victoria, who was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was in her early 30s.
I was active, seemingly healthy, and had no family history. So it was a surprise to me to hear that I had cancer. It was something that was surreal and overwhelming to just have so many unknowns at such an early stage in my life.
Yeah.
Something that was just so unexpected for me.
Is there a reason that young women may be particularly vulnerable to getting cancer?
It's an interesting question, and it's something I've actually been exploring in some of my recent articles. So I did a piece about this for The Telegraph about a month ago, and I interviewed an oncologist at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, who particularly specializes in breast cancer. And he was telling me that, yes, just like you found, that, he's seeing, his whole team is seeing increasing numbers of patients who are either pregnant or have just had children, and they're developing these very aggressive breast cancers. And in the past, we've perhaps put that down to genetics. The BRCA mutations, those were very strongly linked to more aggressive breast cancer. But actually, often we find that, like, so some of these patients, they don't have notable genetic mutations. And so one of the ideas is related to estrogen, the female sex hormone. So obviously now we have a trend of, like, women are having children later, or maybe not even having children at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of this means that they're perhaps exposed to estrogen for longer. So childbirth and breastfeeding basically kind of act as a sort of natural estrogen break.
So exactly, one of the things that I actually mentioned as well, because when it comes to women, because they are saying we already discovered or uncovered that some of the type of cancers that women are having are breast cancer. We already identified at the early age, especially this lady who's part of the documentary. She has breast cancer, and also she has breast cancer and she's only 28 years old. That's yeah, very terrible. I mean, terrible. I hope she, she combated, and yeah, I hope she overcome it. But the thing is, what they are actually saying could be the cause as well is because now women are having babies later down. Their ages in the 30s or late 30s or early 40s. I don't know. Yeah, and some ladies are choosing not to have babies, and that could be a cause, just like you said, estrogen. That could be a cause why they're developing cancers of their sexual organs or their reproductive organs, because they are not being used for their purpose. That could be a reason why they actually developing cancers in these situations, because they are not being used. Then maybe the body recognizes as, yeah, it needs to, basically it's not functioning, something is wrong, maybe. Yeah, but these are all theories again.
Why that's important in the context of cancer is because estrogen, what it does, it actually encourages cells to divide.
Yeah.
Which is which we need that for our bodies to be able to repair themselves. But if that gets out of control, that leads to cancer. And so that's the whole idea. Okay, perhaps women are being exposed to more estrogen for longer, and then that's creating this increased cancer risk.
Have we seen a response from the scientific community and from government to these figures, to this rise in cancer amongst younger people?
Really, from government, not at all at the moment. I think policymakers are around the world are just waiting for more evidence.
Right.
Because as I've said, it's unfortunately it's still very unclear. We need a lot more evidence. Really, the data we have is just from these big population studies, which have looked at the records of people over 30 years. And scientists have a few theories, but for governments to really be able to step in and be like, okay, we're going to introduce this new policy. They need more data, they need more evidence. And that's the stage we're moving forwards towards now.
And when it comes to convincing the government just tend to move slower than normal, because, yeah, I mean, imagine being part of a governmental party or the governmental team. There's so many problems, so many things. You're gonna be extra busy because, yeah, you're gonna be hearing a lot of different stories that you have to address. So, I mean, at the end of the day, their time can be limited, but still, if this is becoming a health concern, it is up to us, the younger ones. It is the young ones. It is up to us to actually, try to make the change, because at the end of the day, it's affecting us and perhaps can be affecting the generation that's coming after us. And we are the one supposed to, be more proactive and to spread awareness, but also to actually, keep the conversation going, bring the awareness.
Looking at the data, do we see that younger people have better, well, to be blunt, survival rates because they are younger, they are healthier, they have fewer comorbidities, other diseases along the way?
This is the unfortunate challenge, because on the one hand, these are younger people, they're much more capable of dealing with really intense chemotherapies and treatments, or in a better physical condition. But at the same time, they're being picked up too late. Often we're seeing people, like Natalie, who are, diagnosed at stage 4, when there really is often very little that you can do.
It took me a long time to get diagnosed.
Okay. One of the problem also that we are experiencing as why it's becoming problematic as well. The reason why I decided to make this video is because not only that the cancers, younger people are getting cancers, it is becoming problematic because, again, cancer is something that is being diagnosed from your 50s and up. But now 50s and below, 20s, 30s, 40s, if you have cancer, it is not expected. So which means cancer screening is not gonna be something that you're gonna go after, because cancer screening by age, young people diagnosed with cancer often fall below the minimum recommendation age for screening. yeah, that can catch their disease early, said Chicago. This is why keeping tab on your health, including any abnormal symptom and knowing your family history of cancer, are critical details to share to your doctor. But this lady again, who was telling about her condition of breast cancer, is that her family, she didn't have a family history of cancer. She didn't have a family history of breast cancer. So it's hard. She's living her life. She says she's living relatively healthy. You know, it's coming out of nowhere. So this is, you know, what are the things that actually change over the last decade or over the last 5 years? A lot of the things that change, I mean, it could be from the food, from the water, it can be technology. I mean, these are the things that are actually changing, because technology, I mean, a lot of the time nowadays, kids who are born with technology. They're born knowing technology, not knowing how it works, but they are born in a technological world, more advanced than the days that I was born, and perhaps the one who are watching more advanced than the days that you are born. So now, is it, you know, can technology actually have an effect, or can be a cause of why younger people are developing or having cancer issues? And is that, you know, what do you think?
I had to advocate very hard because my primary care doctor, first of all, I don't think was very educated about cancer in young people and just didn't really think it was going to be an option. So I would have pushed harder to get that colonoscopy sooner.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that I find concerning, and it always somewhat get me pissed off, because when it comes to her story now, and I've heard many stories like this when it comes to going to your doctor and getting screening, getting tests that you need, that you would want to. Sometimes the test can be to lessen your worries, because again, a lot of the time they say, let me put it here, lessen your worries or stress of, you know, because here it also says here, chronic inflammation, which is a cause of it. Yeah. What factors are causing cancer in younger people? And chronic inflammation, which is chronic stress. So now, one problem that I have, one thing that I get me pissed off from the doctor is that now this lady and a lot of people that I even know in my personal life, they try to go to the doctor and try to get a test, and they are worried about something about their health that has to do with their health. They are getting stressed. They are being stressed about it, and it's like they have to basically beg or prove themselves, and they have to basically really become aggressive towards a doctor to actually get the tests that they need. Because a lot of the time, these doctors, I do understand they saying all of the time that healthcare, there's a lot of pressure in it, meaning that there's not enough people working in the healthcare sector. That's making it basically doctors are working, healthcare providers, they don't have enough time. But I mean, that's you guys' business, because if I'm ill, I don't care about that. If you're ill, you don't care about that. You just want to get yourself healthier. So, I mean, all of these reasons they are telling people, I mean, yeah, sure, good. I mean, it's sad, but I mean, you and I who are just the general public, if we go to the doctor, if you want a test to be done, especially if we have our health insurance, everything check, health insurance check, and everything check, everything is fine. Meaning when it comes to the arrangement and the bureaucracy of, the health insurance, you have a doctor and everything is fine in that way. But you just have a situation that's causing you to be stressed and it's not going away. Sometimes the doctors should just say, oh, whatever, just let me give this person this test, regardless of all these excuses I can bring up and say, oh, why maybe you shouldn't worry about it, why are you concerned about it. Sometimes people don't need a conversation. Sometimes they do need a conversation, but Other times, people don't need a conversation. They need to see the hard results of the test in front of them. That's what a lot of the time that can really give the stress or bring the stress low or the worries. Because, you know, just like they say stress is the number, again, they say stress is the number one killer, or one of the things that, you know, tend to off people the most. So why is it that when people are stressed and they go to the doctor and they want screening or tests to be done, and the doctors always have, not always, yeah, the doctors sometimes doctors tend to have a reason that why they shouldn't do the test. I do understand it could be expensive, but if people, all of the time, some people don't mind paying for it. Yeah. So
With that, there are more and more screening tools becoming available that if I had been educated about, I could have done. So like you can go now, at least for colon cancer, you can go to a pharmacy in the United States and buy a FIT kit, which is sort of it's like a pregnancy kit, except you can dip a little strip in some stool, and it's not perfect, but I have friends all the time and they're too young for a colonoscopy. In America, you have to be 45 or older to have insurance coverage unless you're having symptoms or you don't have a family genetic history.
yeah,
Actually, one of the big steps which many of the main cancer authorities think we need to have next is to educate doctors to look out for these warning signs. Because typically, you know, the warning signs of colorectal cancer are things like difficulty passing stool, you know, fatigue. If a doctor sees a patient in their 30s with that, they might think, okay, they're a bit stressed at work. Maybe they've got irritable bowel syndrome.
yeah. A lot of the time, this is what they're gonna go for. And also, again, there are some people, because one of the things he says is that colon cancer or colorectal cancer, a lot of the key signs of it, I think I should do videos about that, but a lot of the key signs that really cause it, maybe you have difficulties going to the bathroom, you know, door number 2. And little do you know, you might know someone in your surrounding that goes to the toilet maybe one time a week. I mean, I don't know how is that possible, but because normally if that's happening to you, you need to first perhaps go to your doctor, you know, to actually speak about it. But or you can basically eat more fiber filled food, more fiber in your diet. That's really necessary because fibers help the body to move things around. So let me show you some of the high fiber food. I mean, you can Google it, right? But since we are here, let's look at it. High fiber food. These, let me put it here. Here, fiber. Fiber is gonna help you if you're feeling constipated. Definitely, you do need fibers whether you're feeling constipated or not. Your body needs it daily. And let's say chia seed here. Chia seed is one, lentils, almond, oats, whole meal pasta, avocado. Let me see if I can make this a bit bigger again. And so these are the type of food that have the most fiber. Yeah. Berries, you can see. All right. You can see. All right. I'll just be, let me see what else again. It's going to be the list, high fiber food. So which means people who have to go to the toilet maybe every other day. The key here is when you go to do a number 2 should be as frequent as the amount you eat. Let's say, for example, if you eat 2 times per day, you should be going to the toilet 2 times per day. So which means you understand what I'm saying. If you find yourself going to the toilet once a week or every other day, then something is definitely wrong. It shouldn't, naturally the body doesn't work like that, because naturally a lot of it's gonna sit inside of you, and what's gonna happen? It's gonna rot, because the body is waste to the body. If the body is supposed to, on call, should really eliminate it. You need that, and that's what the body needs for you to feel. A lot of the time you can feel more energized or basically de-energized if you're not going to the toilet, or irritated. Yeah, you should yeah, again, the key here is every time you eat, if you eat 2 times a day, you should go to the toilet 2 times a day. Basically, I would say minimum. But if you go, if you can't go, then definitely that's something you should look into, because colon cancer or colorectal cancer is a serious thing. This is the reason what Chadwick Boseman died from. Let me see. Let me see. Chadwick. Yeah, let me put it here. See. Yeah, he's in the thumbnail. Chadwick Boseman from Wakanda. Yeah, let me put it here. Very young dude. Died at 43 from colon cancer. And I mean, as you can see, he looks rather, I mean, still, these are pictures of the good times. And you wouldn't expect it, right? I mean, you wouldn't expect it. So they didn't say the true reason that caused him to actually have colon cancer. But again, whether to know or not to know, it doesn't matter at this point because it's already gone, right? So there's something else I wanted to show. All right, maybe afterwards. We almost
They
finished.
don't automatically think cancer. And I think that's one of the big awareness pushes we've got now.
No, it's exactly what happened with Natalie when she went to her doctor, who gave her a pelvic examination, and clearly it never crossed his or her mind that it could be cancer. What else can be done then to try and tackle the issue of younger people getting cancer?
I think it's a combination of just raising awareness among people themselves as well. You know, oncologists are quite keen to encourage people to check their family history.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps like so if colorectal cancer does run a little bit.
But now you run into a problem because there are some people who cannot find or know their family history. Let's say there are people who are born orphans, for example. There are people who are born, yeah, their parents, yeah, it could be not taking care of themselves, or basically they don't know their parents. And there are people who are born without parents, so, or they don't even know, have no idea of their family lineage or family history. So there comes another problem.
Like so in your family, then you might have a genetic risk which we're not aware of yet. You know, so things like that. So I think that's the main thing people can do themselves. Check their family history. We need more awareness amongst the medical community, and we just need more funding. The government needs to fund more research projects, actually, like sort of looking into this trend.
David, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right, more funding. All right, more money. Always more money, right? So, positive viral immune. But okay, what can be done? I made a list of myself, but what can be done. But before we go down that list, we're gonna look at a list of the worst global cancer index, both sexes. So the type of cancers that are most common when it comes to both sexes. That's from the World Center Research Fund. Center, cancer. I'm getting tired. Okay, so cancer by rank, and this is 2022, but we can go with the same numbers because probably there's no updates on it, because it takes time to actually gather the numbers, you know, and make the updates. I think it would be easier if all hospitals somewhat have a connection to this platform and or this research center to basically give the real numbers. But anyway, skin cancer is the number one. All cancer includes skin cancer, and we do know the majority of the time the type of people who get skin cancer are pale skin or more clearer Caucasians. But cancers, okay, All right, lung cancer is number 1. Breast cancer, colorectal cancer, we already covered that. Prostate cancer, stomach cancer, liver, intrahepatic bile duct, thyroid, and the list goes on and on and on and on. The list keep going. I will add this in the description. I'll add the link in the description section that you can read it, or you can go over it yourself if you like. So again, this number death caused by cancer this year. If you notice at the very beginning of the video, I showed this number. It was very lower than that, and now this is an accurate measurement of real-time measurement of death by cancer. I think there was one last thing I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, this is Princess Katrina. She announced that she's cancer free. She's 41 now, 41, 42, and she had cancer, but now she was able to deal with it. So yeah, that's good news for her. And Chadwick Boseman, we talk about that. Here we talk about the key factors that are causing cancer screening by age, and yeah, we covered all of this. And there was another chart that I wanted to show you guys, and it was basically showing in the global perspective, globally, which countries how cancer is divided per country globally, but I couldn't find that. So yeah, I guess guys, that's it. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and this video is done. Oh no, I'm not finished. Yeah, I still have to talk about what can be done. I just noticed that this stream is taking long, or it's going longer. So I guess this is cancer is very broad. There's various different types of cancer, and definitely, so what can be done if somebody basically to protect yourself or somewhat navigate yourself away from cancer? Early screening. Many guidelines now recommend to have colonoscopy starting from at 45. I think basically testing the colon or checking the colon to basically screening. 45 still too late, because again, early family history. Again, these people and the documentary here, these ladies and gents, let me put her, she was 38. She was not 35. I mean 45. She was younger than that. And her too. Let me put, because they only put the ladies. I guess the guys didn't want to speak. Her too. She was not 28. I mean, she was not 45, because 45, I think, is very much too late to actually, do the screening. And what about her? Let me make it smaller. What about her? She's 28 years old. Breast cancer at 28. And I know I've heard of stories of ladies, younger, 28, younger than 20s, I mean, younger than 30s also died from, cancers from their reproductive system. And so which means, in my note, I put what can be done about it to have the screening at the age as early as 45. But I think 45, maybe 35, or like I said, every 10 years or every 5 years, like general screening should be done. But for some reason, it seems like screening or basically searching or doing research for illnesses is not what the doctors actually really want to do. I don't know, but it seems like that to me, because it should be very readily accessible, because if it's something that is so serious, why wait, Okay, definitely lifestyle changes. That's the second thing that you could do to stay away, to prevent or protect yourself against cancer. this is not a definitive or basically it's not like it's gonna make you immune totally, but it's best to do something about it than to do nothing at all, you know. So more whole food, less processed meat, alcohol, and regular exercise, because you need to move. And what tends to happen is that when you move, there's the body remove a lot of things that it don't need, you know, waste, because a lot of waste, when it accumulates in the body, it tends to, you know, mutate and create new different things, that illnesses that we don't need. Focused research scientists are urgently studying. Okay, yeah, but I think along the way I've talked about a lot of different things that you could do to help yourself, and positive viral and immune factors, infections like HPV, linked to cervical. Oh yeah, I remember there was a young girl. She was about 26, I think. She died from cervical cancer. Yeah, terrible. Throat cancer, weaken immune system. So basically keep your immune system strong, reduce the amount of stress that you have. If you feel that something is wrong, you're not feeling yourself, or you are worried, you are being stressed about something when it comes to your health, and you need to speak to your doctor, I would suggest you push, meaning respectably. Yeah, sometimes it can get to a point that is disrespectful when you feel that you'll not be listened to. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but sometimes it's the only way that people can actually listen, you know, listen to you or hear you. But basically, you gotta be the one to push for your health. You gotta be the first one to, when they say no, you try to go look for another door, go look for another way. Because at the end of the day, a lot of it, people don't know what you're going through. People don't know exactly 100%, just precise what's going on inside of you. You know what you are going through, and your life has the most value to you. So that's why you gotta prioritize it, and that's why you shouldn't take no for an answer when it comes to your health. And okay, chronic illnesses, improve detection. I think we already covered that. Let's see. Oh yeah, because I already talk about delayed parenthood and hormonal factors, later pregnancies, and fewer births may influence breast and ovarian cancer risk. Ladies, start having your babies. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's your choice. Early menstruation and hormonal contraceptive could also play a role. Yeah, could be. All right, so we already talked about the microbiome and the guts. Yeah, I think I've really talked about this very much. What I really hope to do is that I can have this conversation with people who actually went through cancer, or who has it, and who can actually speak on it, and a family member who has seen someone gone through it, because it is very much a very hard thing to see, especially if somebody, you know, a friend of yours that you know that is strong, that is always positive, that's good, like have a lot of life in them, and they are going through cancer. So